Welcome to the Dubby and Grampy PodCast. Hello, everybody. I'm Dubby.
I'm Grampy.
And this is our first podcast of the Dubby and Grampy podcast. And you may be asking, what the heck are these two old guys doing on a podcast? Well, we both recognize, because we both work with kids and have worked with kids for a long time, that there is a missing piece in people's lives these days, and it's the grandparents, particularly the grandpas, or in my case, a Dubby and a Grampy. And so we're going to talk about things that pertain to the role of the grandparents in the life of their grandchildren. Now, not all of us have the opportunity to have a house in the Bahamas or Florida, and our kids live in Michigan, or they live in Wisconsin or Ohio or something like that. And we visit them on a YouTube, or we visit them on some type of video type platform. And we think together, we both thought about this. We live close to our kids and our grandkids. You live real close.
Yeah, for years I thought I would stay in Florida after I retired from the Navy and just relax until we had our first granddaughter. We came back to Ohio for that. And then I had a change of heart. I wanted to be in my grandchildren's lives every day, or as much as possible, because I see a lot of kids today, as a tennis coach, grandparents are not around. They don't come to the matches. They don't encourage or anything like that. So I think what we need to do as grandparents is take a different look at what our responsibilities are, even in retired life, to our families and grandchildren, because it is our responsibility to help our children raise their children.
Yeah, and it's I've worked in juvenile detention centers. I've worked in different youth group programs, pastor church, all kinds of things like that. And I see the effects of the grandparents not being involved in their children's lives. And I mean, the Bible tells us that we're here as grandparents when our hair is silver and our skin is wrinkly, and we start getting to where we're having troubles walking around and stuff. We're here for a reason. When we start, like we talk about, both of us have different physical things going on, and we start falling apart. Well, why do we stay here while we're falling apart? Well, the reason is because of the experience we have that our grandchildren don't have and our children don't have. And it's very important for us to pass that information on down to our grandchildren, who many at this point in time, we both have grandchildren who weren't even here when 9/11 happened. Well, how are they going to hear about that? How are they going to know about it? How are they going to know the truth about it? Unless somebody tells them, because they're not always learning the truth in school. I hate to say that, but they're not always learning the truth in school. And they're not learning the truth on the newscast. So how are they supposed to know about things like the Vietnam War, or how the evolution of things come along? I mean, I run into kids and I'll go, hey, you know where the internet came from? And they'll say, oh yeah, Al Gore invented it. And I go, really? Tell us how he did that while he was sitting in the Senate, but people believe that because they saw it on YouTube or they saw it somewhere else.
Yeah, I just think that what I see in the schools today when I'm around the teams or just walking through the school, there's no love. You can see in somebody's face there's no love in their life, even from mom and dad. They don't attend events. They drop them off. It's almost like school and coaches have become babysitters. And it's not my job to babysit somebody else's child. It's my job to be an example as a coach, be a mentor. But when when you're walking around a tennis court and you see some of these kids, you can feel that there's something missing in their life. And I think it is the grandparent aspect, whether it's grandfather, grandmother, whatever you call them, Grampy, Dubby, Mama, Paw. It's not there. And you can feel that. You can see in a child's face in school, high school for me, that's where I do my business. You can tell who's got love at home from all aspects, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa. Then you can see who doesn't. And that's pretty sad to me. I grew up without grandparents. Actually, they were not in my life. On one side, they were both passed. On the other side, they were more involved with the other kids instead of myself and my brother. But it's just, if I would have had a grandparent in my life, I think I would have turned out a better person. So that's why I'm hoping this podcast can get through to grandparents, say, hey, my responsibility, I need to go see my grandkids. I don't want them dropped off and I want them to leave an hour after I've been there, or they've been there at the house. I want them to stay there the whole day. I see my grandkids just about every day. That is my responsibility. That's something I want to do because I can feel the difference in their education, in their sports. I see it because I am in their life. I have things set up every week for my grandkids, so I know I'm there all the time, whether I'm coaching them or we go out and have a date day or a date night. And we'll take a couple of their friends with us so they can feel what it's like to have a grandparent in their life. It's sad that I see people, I hear it, well, I see my grandkids for an hour a week. That's enough for me because I raised my kids. No, you're not done raising your kids. You need to help your kids.
That's right.
Raise their kids.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, Cruise Carnival.
We talk all the time because we have my wife and his wife, we have a very similar positions with our grandkids, and we grew up around each other, but we had very different lives. Grampy was in the Navy, and so he spent a lot of his time away from this region, the greater Cincinnati region. I spent all of my time here in greater Cincinnati, sometimes to my chagrin. I didn't want to. I tried to get out of here, tried to get to Florida, where it was warm all the time. But we tried to do things that would be good for our children. And then when we started having grandkids and we found out how great they were, we found out if there was any way possible to have grandkids without having kids, it would be just the best of all things, you know. But I just had somebody say that to me. They said, man, if I could have found a way not to have kids but have grandkids, life would be the best. And I said, no, but my kids are great. I have some really great kids, and they're raising great kids right now. But they're not doing it alone. They're doing it with us, helping them. And we're not over the top of them, dawdling and forcing and, you know, showing up at their house and saying, hey, you need to straighten this house up or anything like that. We're not interfering in our kids' lives, but we are inputting into our grandchildren's lives. And that's a very important thing, because there is wisdom that we have, and that's why even hanging around the grandparents of other people, you know, like my kids have been around you guys a lot, and then they picked up stuff from you guys that they now have in their portfolio of weapons to use on their kids, you know, things that they picked up. And that's what's important, I think, is that downloading information, downloading wisdom. My son is an attorney, and he's a pretty smart dude. And I said to him one day, I said, hey, you need us around. And he goes, oh, yeah? Why so? And I said, because we have all this experience, and experience is a great teacher. So, and I even gave a message on a Sunday morning about experience being a great teacher. And he caught me this one day, and when I blurted that out of my mouth, and he said, if wisdom is a great teacher, I mean, if experience is a great teacher to make one wise, then I choose not to be wise because there's certain things I don't want to experience. And I said, man, that should go on a T-shirt, like life's a beach. Well, it should go on a T-shirt like that. And I said, that's pretty smart. I said, where'd you come up with that? Was that all your own thing there? And he goes, yeah, it's my own. And I said, well, why do you say that? So we had a whole discussion surrounding that. And it was pretty profound as far as the thinking ahead, because it is true. Why should they experience some of the stuff that gave us wisdom? I don't know. Have you had any failures that gave you wisdom? Like those things you go, note to self, don't do that again.
I just get a joy of seeing my grandkids' face when I come into their house. It smiles. They give me hugs. We have a special greeting. My oldest granddaughter's 23, getting married in a week and a half, which is really sad because I warned her never date one of my tennis players. And what did she do? Fell in love with my former tennis player, and now they're getting married. Much to my chagrin. No, he really is a great kid. But when I walk into a house or they walk into my house and I see the joy on their face, I know I'm doing something right as a grandparent. I know they want me there in their life. Each one is unique in its own way. We have special things we do besides the date nights. The oldest granddaughter could never say, I would always say to her, love her. She could never say it at a young age. It was lover, L-O-V-R. So now that's our thing today. When I see them and I part ways and go home, I give her a hug, all my grandkids a hug, and I say lover, L-O-V-R. And that's something we have unique that they don't have with mom and dad. So they look forward to every day when they get to see me or their grandma and just have a great time in life. We take them, we give them things and stuff like that that is needed, not out of not giving them what they don't need, but giving them what they do need. Some clothes are here, or some school supplies. But just showing up at the house and you open the door and seeing the smiles on their face, that's what grandparenting is all about in my book. And I love it every day. It keeps me going. It keeps me motivated. It keeps me running. I never thought I'd be like that based on my childhood experiences. But I love them to death. I don't know what I would do if I couldn't see them every day.
I just have one question about that.
Yes.
If he was one of your tennis students, then why did he pick up golf and go with golf?
Well,
I just want to know what that says about your coaching ability. I mean,
Hold on now. He's a great kid. I'm not going to say his name on here. I don't want to embarrass him or anything, but he was a golfer for years. He grew up golfing. He is he works at one of the TPCs here in the greater Cincinnati area, at 2PC actually. And he is a teaching pro. He is a great golfer. But when I coached him at his high school, actually over in Monroe, Ohio, he became a really good tennis player, because tennis and golf, you can play either one. They have some of the same characteristics in stroke and form. And he took to it right away. And he and his doubles partner, I mean, they won like 23 matches their first year together. Wow. And that's phenomenal for a kid that just picked up tennis. It just goes to show what that can do for you. But I swore, I demanded, never date or marry one of my players. And what do I get? I've got a golfer coming into the family that I coached in tennis. I'm sad. But really, he's a great kid. And I know he's going to take care of my oldest granddaughter.
You just answered one of my questions in life.
That I'm better looking than you?
No. that
Drink bubbler. Oh, by the way, support Buc-ee's.
The one thing I could never play tennis, which explains why I can't play golf.
Exactly. You could never play football or wrestle either.
Wait a minute. Now you're treaching on holy ground there.
Hold on. Let's shine a light.
Oh man. You, oh,
That's a good one.
that is a good one.
But seriously, folks, if you are not seeing your grandkids, I'm telling you, at least every other day, if it's at all possible, you're missing out on a life-changing event to me. You're just going to get longevity. You're going to be happier, which makes you more healthier. See your grandkids. Go watch a tennis match. Go watch them play golf. Invite them out to go play golf. Go to the store. Go shopping. Whether you buy something or not, just be with your grandkids as much as you can. Your whole life will change.
Yeah, and be the grandparent. Don't be the parent. Be the grandparent. We get to do things like spoil them and buy them all kinds of things their parents don't want them to have, and all that kind of stuff. And they, like, I've got grandkids who send us little text messages, and they'll say, "Hey, for Christmas I want this. For my birthday I want this." And we say, "Did you check with your mom and dad?" "Yeah, they won't buy it for us." And so we do things like that.
Yeah,
exactly. We're not undermining them, because it's really kind of a big game between us all. But it does give them a trust in us, and it gives us an opportunity to have their ear.
Yeah, I want my grandkids to have what my children could not have.
Yeah.
And that's the better things in life. Not to say what you have now is not good enough, but I want them to have a better life than I did, a better life than my kids did. And if it's possible, you do have to look at your finances. You've got to be smart about it and do it the right way when you can, the right way. And to go a little further about my grandkids, I recently started with two of my grandkids that are in high school, granddaughters. Every Monday morning now, I go to school, and I actually take 3 envelopes. My 2 granddaughters and the best friend of my 15-year-old granddaughter is a really special young lady. And I take her an envelope too. So I take a sticky note and I write something out to get them through their week. And they get that envelope, and it's for their eyes only. I take it to school, drop it off at the office. They come in and pick that up once they're called down to the office. I just started this process. I'm doing it every Monday because I want them to know how much I care about them, how much I want them to be successful in life. And it puts a smile on their face because I'll say kind things just to motivate. I'll tell them to have a great day in school this week. Hey, good luck in your tennis matches. Hey, good luck in cheer. Good luck in volleyball. That's the sports they play. But I feel that's important so they know that week is going to be a lot better week with Grampy supporting them all the way.
Yeah, so many kids today, their source of self-worth is the kids that surround them or what they see on the internet. I just saw this morning that there's an app that it's an AI app, and your kid can download it. It's geared toward teenagers, and particularly teenage girls. And you take a picture of yourself into this app, and it tells you all the places that you can improve. So it says, well, your nose is too big. You got to make your nose smaller, and your face is this way, and your face that way. And they say, oh, it is going to help them develop. Well, no, that's going to tear them down. They're going to say, look, this app, it's like when I step on a scale and it says only one person, please. It's, it's like that. You're going to look at this app that's supposed to help you, and you're going to feel bad. You know what I mean? Because it's going to tell you your eyes are this way, your nose is this way. And basically, the app is telling everybody they need to look the same. And if you're getting your self-worth out of an app or out of, the kids at school, you're in trouble because they can't know you intimately like your grandparents can. They can't sense when you're struggling. They can't do anything, and they really don't care. I mean, let's face it, most of the kids in school today are every man for himself, and so it's a good time for, I believe, the grandparents to rise up. There's a lot of us in our generation. There are a lot of grandparents around, and to take these kids, our kids, and even their friends, if they don't have any grandparents, take them under our wings and help insert that wisdom into them. And there's a different generation coming up now. They're wanting truth. They're wanting to know the right way to do things. They're wanting to have a relationship with the Lord too. They're wanting to bring some spirituality in their life. And be honest with you, they're looking at all of us and they're going, well, you guys messed this up. Church is boring because you guys messed this up. We're not having the things that the Bible promised because you guys messed this up. And I know people say, oh, well, it's tradition and all this. Well, maybe we ought to hang some of that man-made tradition. We should hang it over the garbage dumpster because it isn't working. It just isn't working. And the kids don't treat each other kindly. The kids don't give each other their best. And that's really what friendship is supposed to be about, is you looking out after your brother or your sister's back, and you're making sure nobody messes with them. And it's really sad watching kids today, and they don't have some of that. They don't have that camaraderie that we used to have with our friends. It's different.
And that's what grandparents can do. Life experiences. If your grandson or granddaughter is struggling, you can go back and say, hey, this is how I handle certain situations. The grandparents, look, I hear all the time, I raise my kids. I'm not going to raise theirs. And I said that earlier today on this podcast. Exactly. Boo. You have a responsibility. Don't take the attitude I always hear of, well, I raised my grandkids. I want my free time. It's okay if they come over for an hour, like I mentioned earlier. No, it's not okay for an hour. Spend 3 or 4 hours with these young people. That will change their life. They'll stop thinking about, well, Susie's wearing this, Johnny's wearing that. That's what I want to wear. No. Help them be themselves. If they want to wear all black, let them wear all black. If they want to wear all purple, let them wear all purple. By the way, I'm colorblind. I couldn't tell you what purple is. But it's just sad that I would say 30%, this is just a guess, 30% of the grandparents want to be in their kids' lives, their grandkids' lives. The other 70 take that attitude. I raised my kids. I'm not raising theirs. Well, guess what, folks? It is your responsibility to help. Yeah. And if you ever want to have a cup of coffee, look up Grampy. I'm right here in Cincinnati, Ohio. I coach up in Oxford. Hint. Come see me someday.
Really, the truth is that we have a generation that is growing up without guidance.
Yeah.
Now, this generation coming up, they're almost demanding something different from their parents and grandparents. And dropping my grandchildren off at a local school district that is pretty affluent, where a lot of people have a lot of means, and listening to the talk of the parents, and I'm thinking, wow, what are these kids facing? Because the parents are like, oh, what did you do today? Oh, well, I'm going to go do this and I'm going to go do that. And I was reading in this book, told me that if Johnny acts this way, then I should do this or I should do that. And I'm sitting there thinking, you need to be turned over somebody's knee because you don't have a clue. You're reading how to parent your children out of a book. Where was your mom and dad at? Maybe their parents died young. Okay, well, where were the other people at in your life that were senior people that could tell you, hey, you know what? Maybe you shouldn't do that. And this thing just, it grinds me no end. I see parents do this all the time. Little Johnny's throwing a fit. I mean, he's just having a temper tantrum. And he doesn't want to do something. And they go, well, Johnny, what would you like to do? What would make you happy? And I'm thinking, I'll tell you what would make him happy. You jerk him up by the shorts there, and you tell him where the boundary lines are, and you tell them they're not allowed to do that anymore. And we've got a whole generation of parents that just don't understand how to parent. They don't draw any boundary lines. They don't draw any no-go zones with their grandchildren. And like, I want my grandchildren, before they go out and smoke a doobie, I want them to think about, would Dubby approve of that? You know, I mean, I know you famously you are famous for your roles, but but seriously, don't you want your grandchildren thinking about, before they go do something like that, before they go out and they get drunk with their buddies at 18 or senior year in high school, wouldn't you want them to understand the damage that they could cause to their life? And their parents instead are going, oh, well, you know, will that make you happy? Well, no, it isn't making them happy. I can tell you why I did it, because I wasn't happy.
What irritates me is once in a while, I'll see a mom or a dad talking about getting high.
Oh, yeah.
And the worst part of it is they're talking about getting high with their own children that are of age or may not be of age. That is not a way to parent, folks. Mm-mm. As a grandparent, again, we should be there. We should set those boundaries as well. That's not a good thing for you to do with my grandchild. I think once we do that, we step in and see something that shouldn't be happening within the family unit of your children. That's when things will change in that grandchild's life. They'll see how much you care. They'll start to think, what am I doing here? What am I doing wrong? Am I going to make the right decision in these circumstances? Be there for them. If mom and dad is causing a problem, be there for them.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to your own children. Say, hey, you need to be a better parent. Be in their life. And that's the biggest problem I see today in high schools. A lot of these kids, even elementary or middle school, the parents aren't even around. Mm-hmm. You've got so many latchkey kids today because mom and dad are working 1 or 2 jobs, or they're out with their friends at a bar or restaurant, and the kids are coming home and nobody's there but the child. Maybe a pet, dog or cats, whatever floats their boat. It's just, grandparents, look, if you get anything out of this podcast today, be there for your grandkids. Don't take the attitude, I'm only going to see you 5-10 minutes. I got a card game to go to. No. Have them around for 3 or 4 hours. You would be surprised how much that little life will change for the better.
It is amazing. And get them off of these, you know?
Yeah.
Get them off these things. Because
I'm on mine all the time, but I'm retired and have nothing to do, and I'm bored to death.
Get them off of those things.
Buy bubbler.
My grandchildren, they know if they're sitting there scrolling through, flipping through, TikTok or something, they'll go, as soon as they hear a bad word, they hurry up, flip it, and they go, I shouldn't listen to that, should I? And I go, no, don't listen to that. Or somebody talking stupid, about sexuality or bullying somebody or something just ignorant. They'll say, should I turn that off? And we go, well, yeah, you turn that off. You know better than that. And they go, yeah, you're right. And sometimes they'll bring up discussions about that, and they'll say, hey, do you know how much money that guy makes on YouTube? And you go, does he really make that much money? And they go, yeah, man, they make a ton of money and they do this and that and the other thing. I said, but have you checked into his life? Do you know what his life is like? And there's some that are really good examples because they give a lot of stuff away and everything else. But then there's other ones that are just complete deadbeats in their brains, And your kids need to know that that's not life. This thing inside of this little thing here isn't life. life is out doing things. It's discovering nature. It's having real friends that know your heart and will stick with you. You know, like we've been friends since high school,
Yep.
and it's hard to
50
believe.
years. 50 years.
Yeah, 50 years.
And I'm 70, by the way. Yes, I know I don't look it, but I am 70 years old. Turned 70 in April. I love my life. I want my grandkids to love their life. That's why I'm doing this podcast each week. I think you're going to like it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun for you. I think you're going to learn from it. I'm hoping you learn from it based on what we do and how we handle our grandchildren, our own lives. So.
And we're not like psychological experts. We probably need psychiatrists.
No.
Somebody looked at us. If they examine us closely, we might be in one of those jackets with long arms tied behind our back. But the living life is the most important thing we can teach our kids to enjoy the time that they have. I mean, none of us knows the hour of the day that we're going to depart this life. I mean, look at all the things that have just happened in recent times here in over the last month. There's been a lot of major news stories where people have lost their lives needlessly. And whether it's an assassin's bullet or it's a crazy on a train, there's all those things going on. And your kids don't need to experience that. I mean, we need to bring back civility amongst our kids.
Yeah, I don't want to leave this earth when he calls me home. And my last thought be, did I do enough for my grandkids? Even my own children. My kids will tell you, I've got 2 girls and a son, all married, all successful. Everybody's in healthcare except for 2. I was in healthcare after the Navy. I just don't want that on my mind at the moment. I know I'm going home to be, did I do enough? Because that will bother me for an eternity. Now, I know that's not how it's going to work, but someday my kids will understand why I was the way I was. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of funny because my children have kind of taken on some of the traits I had as they're raising their kids today. And fortunately, my grandkids, I have 6, 4 girls and 2 boys. And then one of my granddaughter's best friend, who I've taken on as a grandchild because she does not have a grandfather figure in her life right now. And so I'm trying to take that on and show her what having a grandparent in her life is like, a grandfather. And I think when I look back, did I do the right things as a parent? I was probably really strict. But then when I watch my kids parent their children, and I see some of them aspects that I had, or whatever the word you want to use, then I start to think maybe I did do my job in raising my kids the right way, because now I see it in them.
It's always good when your kids copy you.
Yeah,
you at least did something.
Yeah,
I mean, it could go bad the other way too.
They're not going to be as good looking as Grampy.
Well, you know what they say.
Without the hair,
beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
That's right. It is. You're the beholder.
Yeah.
I'm the beauty. No, I'm just kidding. I'm the gorgeous one. Just kidding.
Some of the interesting things that you pick up as you go through life is life isn't fair.
Nope.
It just isn't. I mean, nope. I heard this sermon one time saying God isn't fair. That was the title of the sermon, God isn't fair. And it was the sermon, it first got me because I thought, well, yeah, God's fair. He's got, he makes sure. No, God doesn't give everybody the same talent. He doesn't give them all the same abilities. He doesn't pour out the same amount of money on everybody as, some people become wealthy. Some people aren't wealthy. And the point is that life is not fair, and you need everybody to understand it. You need your grandkids to understand it, because they're going to make mistakes, and they're going to do things wrong. And so it's a good place for us to be able to step in when they do things wrong, and they've had a failure of some sort, and say, hey, let's talk about that. Why would you do that? And they might say, well, this and that and the other thing, and then to help them through that understanding of how things really work. Because the Bible tells us to seek wisdom, and it tells us to go after knowledge. Well, knowledge is basically, it's information. That's all knowledge is information. And the Bible tells us knowledge puffs you up. You think you're smart, and so you go around and you do dumb things because you think you're smart. But then it says that you need to have wisdom. In all the getting of knowledge, make sure you get wisdom, because wisdom is taking that knowledge and applying that knowledge properly in the right spot, how God would have intended for that knowledge to be used. But then Solomon says, in all of your getting, he says, get knowledge, obtain wisdom, but in all of your getting, get understanding also. Because understanding is knowing how all that information you got, all that wisdom you got, how does that affect other people? How does it affect those around you? And I do that with my grandkids sometimes. We're talking, and I got one that his brain just works differently. And he brings up really, really deep, interesting subjects sometimes. And my granddaughter, I have 4 grandsons and then a granddaughter. And needless to say, she's a princess. She will bring up things, and she'll even argue with everybody else because she can. And she's really, really smart. Well, we'll be sitting around having a discussion about something, and they'll say, man, that's really good what this guy did or that guy did, or this kid at school is this way or that way. And I'll bring up and I'll say, yeah, but how did everybody else feel about that? How did everybody else respond to that? How did that affect other people? And they go, oh, well, some of these kids, they were really offended, and some of them were this way and some of them were that way, and some this happened or that happened. And I'll go, well, could they have taken that? Could they have done the same thing, but applied that differently so that people weren't offended, so that people weren't hurt in the process of that? And I think that's a lot of our time in life. I mean, I know going through my 20s and my 30s and probably even my 40s, I did things that were offensive to people. And I didn't think they were offensive at the time, but then I found out, gosh, you really hurt that person. You really did this or did that, and I thought, man, I could have done that differently.
Yeah, looking at that situation, I can even say, did I offend my children in a way that was had a negative impact on their life? So you start to think, what have I done wrong? How am I seeing this in a different way that they're not, but it's having a negative effect on them? Look at the whole picture. I'll just leave you with this. If your grandchild is struggling, look at yourself and ask yourself, am I doing enough to help my children raise their children? Like I said earlier, because believe it or not, the impact that you're going to have on that grandchild is going to be phenomenal once you step in and say, hey, I'll help you with this. Mom and dad are busy. I'll help you with this. Mom and dad are teaching you wrong. I hate to say that, but that happens today. And it is happening. But you've got to ask yourself, have I done enough to make sure my grandchild is going to be successful in this society? Because as we know, this society kind of messed up right now. And that's where I think, as a grandparent, if your grandchildren are not in a church or not a believer in Christ, teach them about Christ. Teach them the word.
Mm-hmm.
Find a church that is teaching all aspects of the Bible, not something that's, we're going to pick and choose, that preaches the whole Bible, teaches the whole Bible. Then you can say to yourself, I did what I needed to do. Then you'll be happy when you're called home.
Yeah. And that is something that we have got to really take to heart, is the spiritual relationship. A lot of times, as you grow older, you start figuring out that you don't have it all together. You know, and you go, you know what? My life's pretty screwed up. And you start to I don't want to say reimagine, but you reinvent yourself with a spiritual life that you never had before. And you start saying, hey, I can do better with my life. And so as you get to that place, you say, well, my grandchildren are growing up and they're in the kind of the same spot I was in. I just went to my 50th class reunion. Man, that's hard to say. That is so hard to say. But I just went to my 50th class reunion, and it was amazing to me how many people in my class and the other people that were around that I knew back from those days that found a relationship with Christ at some time later on, you know, in their 40s or in their 50s. And some of them really took it to heart, and they really did something with it in their life. Some of them, you know, became ministers, and some of them teach Sunday school and all those sorts of things. But they all had kind of the same thing. Man, I wish I could have done this earlier. And I say the same thing. I wish I would have done that earlier. Well, if you're discovering your spirituality and you're in your 60s and 70s, and you say, well, you know, it's too late for me to do anything, I'm just glad I'm going to heaven, you know, maybe it's not, because you have grandchildren. If your children won't listen to you, when they see the change in your life, they see how God has moved upon you and changed who you are, your grandchildren will listen to you. They're going to listen to somebody who comes up to them and is sincere and loves them and brings them in and then starts telling them about a better way to live, and not guilt tripping them and not doing the browbeating. You know, some people beat their kids to death with the Bible. Well, that doesn't bring anybody in. It's amazing to me. I know you haven't had this experience, but it's amazing to me how many preachers that I talk to that are in their 50s, 60s, 70s, they have children, and their children are not in a relationship with the Lord. They don't attend church. Some of them are way off the range, you know. Other ones went through a big deal for a number of years and then came back to the Lord when they started getting older. And it's amazing. And I have to say, for a lot of PKs, they got there because it was shoved down their throat. It wasn't a loving relationship. It was more like we have a new Gestapo in the house, or a new general in the house who is bearing down all these rules on us, you know. And instead of giving that same loving relationship that you have with the Lord to your children and your grandchildren, and that's really what it's about, is teaching them how to love and how to discover love and how to discover the best in everybody else. And we can do that. Grandparents rule when it comes to that. And I think that's probably the best thing. Yeah, take a cruise with them. That's
a great idea.
That is
a cruise with
thing.
your grandkids, I tell you, because we cruise, I think it is once a year. The whole family goes, and it's just a blast to watch them have a great time. You're there. And I got to tell you, most of the time when I'm on a cruise with my grandkids, my wife and I are, the grandkids are wanting to be with us instead of mom and dad. Personally, I think we're more fun. Now, my children will argue that. Say I'm boring and too tall. I'm 6'7", which is something else in this society right now. There's some going thing about 6'7". I'm still trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I don't know.
Both of my youngest granddaughters, 16 and 15 years old, I guess they use that to make me laugh or drive me crazy because I still don't understand 6'7".
I don't either. They did that to me this morning in the car.
Yeah.
I said 6'7", because I've got a nephew that's 6'7". I said, yeah. We're talking about them getting tall. They're all small, and I said, yeah. I said, there is some height in my family. One of them is 6'7". Both of them went like this: 6'7", 6'7", 6'7", and I'm like,
didn't get it.
I don't
Still
get it.
don't get it.
I still don't get it.
I'm going to ask my oldest granddaughter, who was a complete joy when she was born, and still is a complete joy, what that means. I think she'll tell me, and so I can understand it a little better. But my two high school age girls just crack up, make fun of me, because they know I'm going to be like, what's that mean?
Yeah, we don't know. We truly do not know what 6'7" means.
Yeah.
Well, that's it for our very first thing. I hope you got a little something out of it. If you're a grandparent, listen, write some information in there. Give us some things you want us to talk about, or we've got a vast deep well of experience in life in all different places. And we have a lot of experience with grandkids. So we would invite you to make comments, ask questions down in the comment question area, and we'll try and answer them the next time that we're on. We're hoping to do a broadcast every week, bring you some things as we discover new things, books, films, whatever that would be good for families, would be good for your grandkids, would be good for you to sit down and have a discussion with your kids about. You need to know some information, and you need to apply it then. Take that wisdom and apply it so that it affects your grandchildren in a positive way, and they get through life better than you did.
Yep. And closing out for me, to my Rosie, Mackie, Dee Dee, Jojo, Parker, Finn, and my adopted granddaughter, Ashlyn, Grampy loves you.
That's it. Catch us next week. We'll be on again. We'll talk some more stuff. Thanks for joining us.
Peace out. Not so bad.